It's the final day of the UN's Most Influential People of African Descent Week. The group known as MIPAD is partnering with our parent company Warner Media, and their goal is to recognize people of African descent from around the world who are making a difference in their communities. The Global 100 lists were unveiled during a ceremony on Sunday. It was hosted by One World anchor Zain Asher, who's back soon, and she was also among those who were honored.
The idea of this kind of platform, MIPAD, that aims to showcase the contributions of people from African descent all over the world is hugely personal to me.
Time now for the exchange and a look at this year's theme, Amplifying Global Black Narratives. Camille Olufowobi is founder and CEO of Most Influential 100. I spoke with him earlier about why this international recognition is so important. Camille, it's a fascinating list. I've seen people from former President Barack Obama, who gets a lifetime achievement, to the British footballer Marcus Rashford, to the Senegalese-Italian TikTok star Kaby Lame, who's one of my favorites. What's the criteria for making it on this list?
Thank you, first and foremost, Larry, for having me on. And I want to say congratulations to you for also making this list of the most influential people of African descent.
Thank you. That's very kind.
Absolutely. You are in the 100, under 40 category. And what we're celebrating or, doing in partnership in support of the United Nations is to recognize people of African descent from all over the world, sometimes in unexpected places, right? So that's what I always like to say it's not an award, it's a recognition, which is the first pillar of the International Decade for People of African Descent. So as long as you're working in contribution to the collective, right, and to support humanity, that's what makes you, a nominee for our global list.
You have 10 categories from governments to education to TV and film. Why do you draw the line? Why is it not an award and it's recognition? What is the difference for you?
Right, the difference is because we're working, on the UN resolution that declared the International Decade for People of African Descent. And the first pillar of that is recognition. And the task that we have had is to scout, look around the world and find people of African descent who are making positive contributions and highlight them every year. So we've had the privilege of doing that since the decade started, 2015, right? Every year, just highlighting and showcasing, excellence around the world exhibited by people of African descent in line with the decade. What is interesting this year, 2021, is that the United Nations declared 2021 as the International Year for the Creative Economy, which is why you made the list, because you're in the creative space. So what I'm really excited about is this special edition that we created, which is the most influential creatives of African descent.
I would not necessarily agree that I'm one of the most influential creatives of African descent, but thank you for the recognition. Some people would also disagree, but it's nice to be recognized. I will say that for sure. What was fascinating for me going through this list is we come in so many different shades. I counted on your website 16 different categories: African American, Afro-Caribbean, Continental African, Afro-Cuban, and when you talk about amplifying global Black voices, this has got to be, how is that connected?
So amplifying global Black narratives is a thing for this year. And the reason why we go with that is that we exist all over the world, sometimes in unexpected places. And it's okay to be dispersed around the world, but what is not okay is the disconnection. So where we're stepping in is building this ecosystem, right? Not an ecosystem, an ecosystem of some of the best and the brightest people of African descent around the world to foster collaboration. When you look at the list, you find some of the heads of the biggest theater groups in Nigeria, in Brazil, in the UK, in South Africa, right? And what we're doing is curating a platform where they get to connect and create possibilities for the glory of Africa and its people all over the world. And that's what's exciting about the ecosystem that the list has enabled us to put together.
Race and racism, Camille, became major global issues in the last year after the death of George Floyd. and the Black Lives Matter protest that followed. Did that make this recognition this year more meaningful because of that background?
Absolutely. I mean, if you looked at our recognition in 2020, it was called the Global Reckoning Edition. And what we did was to look closer at, the racial equality movement to see where people of African descent exist in high positions. And though we recognize those who are currently in those positions, but what was, really clear was the absence of people of African descent in major decision-making tables around the world, right? So yes, it's made it even more important for us to continue to highlight the positive contributions of people of African descent all over the world, not just in the US, not just on the African continent, but a lot of the diasporan countries. Brazil has the largest population of people of African descent outside of Africa. And India and Pakistan comes in, near second with almost 80 million plus people, Sindhis, right? And then you come back to South America and Colombia with 10, 11 million. So it's important for us to, to recognize that we are making contributions in all of these different countries around the world.
Kamel, for full disclosure for our viewers, we at CNN and Warner Media, our parent company, are partners for the most influential people of African descent, and we're actually curating some experiences during Recognition Week.
Yes, absolutely. Super excited about the partnership with CNN. So CNN came on board, to amplify this International Decade for People of African Descent, right? When we recognized some of the executives at CNN who had some of the highest ranking Black people in corporate America, right? So they came on board for the next 3 years. We're going to be working with you till the end of the International Decade. And for Recognition Week this year, CNN put together a masterclass for creatives. Remember, this is the International Year for the Creative Economy. So CNN, came around and we put together a masterclass for creating documentaries targeted towards creatives, right? So that definitely was a hit during the week. And we also had a film screening of Kamal Bell's United Shades of America and Dive In with Purpose. So put together a film screening and discussions, a masterclass, and also a diversity and inclusion panel, which included some of the biggest, names in the diversity space.
All right, Kamel Olufowobi, thank you for your time, sir. We appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Larry.
And you can learn more about all the most influential people recognized on MIPAD.org.